Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Ladies and bees and gentlemen, it is time that we return to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How have you all been, everybody? I know it's been a little while, and especially with the fact that last week I went on vacation, and a very well-timed vacation as well, or at least it fell into place like that. Considering that since the last episode, so far the month of November has been absolutely insane. I wouldn't even say crazy, like the kind of crazy that we regularly present here on this podcast, but the kind of insanity that it could be a lot for many people. In fact, it could be too much, down to the point where I understand that the future can be frightening, especially with the news that Donald Trump has unfortunately won the US election this year. And now he is filling his cabinet with very, well, not questionable, but downright criminal people. You have racists such as Stephen Miller, then anti-vaxxers like Robert Kennedy Jr., and even a full-on pedophile like Matt Gaetz. And you know that with Project 2025, they have intentions to go after Americans the same way that 9/11 impacted the country. And from there, this is why I highly recommend that at this point, I understand the frustrations and the fears of what may be to come. But my only advice to you for that is just never give up. Because this is exactly what authoritarians want you to feel hopeless, to feel scared, and to do nothing about it while they get away with their inhumane crimes. The same way that the Nazis have done back in the 1930s and 40s that literally cost millions of lives because of that white nationalist vision. But as long as you do not give up to fight back, then at that point, it will become better than how you may feel like things may come or may happen. And one way to go and fight that I could recommend that you can go and do so is that you can go and actually donate to nonprofit organizations who will help to go and prepare for this fight. And I do have a few that I can go and recommend to you, in which these include the American Civil Liberties Union, in which they are one of the biggest advocates in the United States for human rights, and they're already preparing for the big fight against anti-American legislations and agendas such as Project 2025. At the same time, there is also Planned Parenthood, which is one of the biggest organizations who are advocating for women's reproductive rights, and not to mention an essential tool to fight against sexual assault and pedophilia. So if you are against those things, then it's important to go and help out Planned Parenthood. And then also there is Media Matters, an independent news organization who is not afraid to go and call out the corruption that is happening in governments, whether they be from Democrats, from Republicans, or from major corporations. In fact, Elon Musk has been noted to be very scared of Media Matters, which is why he went and cowardly did that lawsuit of Media Matters when they called him out as an anti-Semite. So from there, this is all just an example of what you can go and do in order to go and fight against what may be to come. Now, I cannot promise you that during this fight, you will succeed in all of your battles, and there will be times that it will be extremely difficult. But I can promise you that if you keep on fighting, if you never give up, then things will get better, especially to go and fight against whatever may come from America's Osama bin Laden. Although I will say maybe comparing Trump to bin Laden is not really fair, considering that bin Laden has been proven to be a more efficient leader than Trump. But yeah, so I just wanted to go and get my quick comment on that out of the way, especially with what recently had occurred. And there's just already, like, even to this day, a lot to go and take in. So just to remind you all, keep fighting the fight. All right, so with that said now, we still got one whole episode to go through. And as we will go and continue to prepare ourselves for the fight, let's go and have a moment of craziness. So now I want to ask the chat wall, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Well, let's see now. All right. Yes, I see people are prepared. That's great. All right. So now that we see people are ready, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, we are going to go and take a look at a trailer. Now, I know there have been a few that have passed around these past 2 weeks, but the one that I want to go and show you is actually one from a movie that we have already seen a few trailers, but considering that it's going to be in about a month that it shall be coming out, then we might as well go and check out how this movie is going to be with one more trailer that they will have in store. One more chance to prove to us that maybe there is a lot more to this feature than what it may seem. So with that said, let's go ahead and start this off by taking a look at the final trailer of Mufasa, the Lion King.
Well, what do we have here?
Move your head and let me see. Come on.
And that is Mufasa. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we don't need extra comments from Timon and Pumbaa right there. But yes, that is indeed the final trailer of Mufasa, the Lion King, to which it will be coming soon to theaters on December 20th. And one thing that I'll just say right now that I will give this credit is that it honestly sounds a little bit weird, but more so than the previous trailers, they are selling more on the fact that this is actually a prequel to The Lion King. Because not only are they emphasizing about Mufasa and Taka, whom later we know as Scar, but then we also see the other characters coming in and showing how the other, like some of the others, like how they would step in and what role do they actually play in the Pride Lands. It's more, it really does feel like, it's not just Mufasa's origin story, but it's like the origin story of the Pride Lands in general, where we are introduced to Sarabi. How did Mufasa meet her, and how did she become Mufasa's lover? And then there's also Zazu. How did he come into play? And then at the same time, there's also Rafiki. So now they're developing several of these characters' backstories, which I will admit, okay, you know what? In terms of like The Lion King, in terms of like the whole franchise and what we know about it, all right, that's going to be a bit more interesting, like now we will learn more about where they come from, how they're added into the story, how they come to be, how they all met and stuff like that, how they ultimately formed the Pride Lands. Okay, like conceptually there is a bit of an idea right there. But I feel like that's the only main thing that they would try to go and sell with this final trailer in particular. Other than that, we don't really see any of the other stuff that would seem kind of intriguing. Like, number one, and like, even though we did get a little bit of a taste, like maybe with one song, we don't see much of a factor on how this is a musical. Considering that they advertised the fact that this is going to feature a bunch of new music by Lin-Manuel Miranda, yet never once in this trailer or in most of the trailers do we actually see a moment where it's a legitimate musical. Like in this one, we see a bunch of action for sure, but we don't actually have a moment where we actually see like, okay, this is going to be like a musical moment. Like at the most that I can think of is probably during the previous trailer where we see Mufasa and Scar where they're like buddying up like, hey, you know, like that final shot in the previous trailer. Like maybe there is that. Or like, even in the teaser trailer, come to think about it, when we see the lions just bouncing around in different areas, you know, like maybe there is that as well, but not as much in this. So maybe they're saving up the surprises for when the movie actually does come out, but I don't know. Like so far, I feel like I wanted to have a little bit more of an idea of how those musical numbers are going to be or how this movie is a musical number, but I don't know. But also, speaking of which, considering that the main selling point is the fact that this is a prequel to The Lion King, one thing that it does remind me a lot of, like now more so than before, considering that I know like me and several others have already done this comparison, but it's reminding me a lot more of Transformers 1, especially near like probably around the end of the trailer where we see Mufasa like trying to unite all the animals in order to go and like right over here, like uniting the animals to fight against the villainous white lions that are coming in. Like you see like a moment where Mufasa has to really stand up and prove that he is a true leader. Or as this trailer specifically mentions that, where was it? Just want to show like that little part. Yeah, I think it's, was it right over here or no, where is it? I need to find that moment or yeah, right over here.
This is not a drill!
There will be one Lion King.
Yeah, that freaking part right there. It's like one of those moments that I can't help but feel like I just want to say, like, seriously, dude? Like, you gotta say, it's like, I shall be the Lion King. Like, come on, man. That is like beyond cheesy right over there. But it does bring up one other factor that I do want to mention. And one thing that I'm going to be very honest, I am curious to see how this movie is going to do, considering that we're already seeing the similarities to this and Transformers 1. I am also seeing like what I want to know is, how are they going to handle Scar? How are they going to handle the transformation of Taka to Scar? Because in Transformers 1, one of the best things about it is how they presented the transformation of D16 to Megatron. Like that honestly was just fantastic and probably better than what even I could expect from that. So I am curious to see how they will try to go and handle that. Now, I'm not saying that it will be the same as Transformers 1, where we're suddenly going to see like a massive battle between Mufasa versus Scar and stuff like that, considering that in the original Lion King, we do see Scar is still allowed to go and hang around the Pride Lands, considering that he is related to Mufasa. But in this case here, I am curious to see like how that transformation is going to be, how they will go and present that character arc to show how Scar became the infamous Disney villain that everybody loves to hate to this day. Now, that's one thing I am curious about, and maybe we did get like a little bit of a taste when we see like Scar wanting to eat either Zazu or Rafiki, but not really a whole lot. So overall, I would say that when it comes to this trailer in particular, I'm kind of like, it's kind of a toss-up, honestly. It's like, I'm not going to rule out that this is going to be terrible, but I'm still yet to be convinced if this really is going to be worthwhile, if this really is the prequel that deserves to be, that deserves to be connected to The Lion King. Like, I could see some promises with some things, but there are also some other elements that I have yet to see that are significant in order to really like mark this movie as either good or bad. But other than that, and I mean, not to mention, of course, you got the animation. Of course, it's like the technology itself is still very solid, but it's just the way they're using it in this movie is still pretty weird. But I don't know. I think ultimately, at best, it's a wait and see kind of thing. But if you are curious to go and check out Mufasa the Lion King, then keep in mind that the film is going to be released on December 20th. And with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think about the final trailer of Mufasa the Lion King? Excuse me. That's my lunch wanting to make a comeback. But anyways, what did you all think about it? Did you guys enjoy that trailer? Are there some things that convince you more to go and see it? Are you guys still hesitant about it? In fact, let me go and write down a poll here on Twitch. So maybe we can go and answer that question. Let's see. Are you more convinced that Mufasa could be good? So we'll go and write down yes, and then we'll write down no, and let's see what we got here. All right, so anyways, let's see what the chat wall will have to say. I'm going to go ahead and say that it still did not win me over. The idea of the Lion King prequel focus on Mufasa is excellent. I kind of just wish it was one to the 94 film instead of the remake. But I'm not too sold on the writing and the visuals, despite being more expressive than the remake. Still looks rough. Overall, the only thing that'll get me to see this is if the first screening of Sonic 3 is sold out. Yeah, well, I mean, there is always a chance that you can do a double feature, but I mean, if Sonic 3 is sold out, chances are there might be some of the other films that you want to go and see. Like, I'm sure stuff like Wicked and Moana 2 would still be in theaters at that time, so there is also that option in case. But that is if they turn out to be very good, which I heard apparently with Wicked, so far the early reactions have been very solid. But again, that's only from what I have heard. Let's see now. This trailer really doesn't impress me all that much. Honestly, while I do think conceptually this is an interesting idea, it doesn't really provide much in terms of substance, since we don't hear the musical numbers, and we are talking about something based on the remake of The Lion King, so overall, this is a pass for me. And honestly, I'm gonna do the sensible thing and go see Sonic 3 instead. Yeah, I think it's all, like, I'm not gonna say it's fully unanimous, but I think for the majority of you, I'm sure that you would rather want to see Sonic 3 instead of Mufasa. I think that is an honest given, and I'd even say I don't really blame you. But still, though, you don't have to tell me twice that you'd rather want to check out Sonic 3, because honestly, even for me, if I had a choice between Mufasa or Sonic 3, definitely Sonic. Anyways, let's see what we got here. So I'm going to be unpopular here, but this looks kind of interesting. Not great, but it looks fine. I'll watch it on streaming. Not sure why they're villainizing albino lions. Is it a metaphor for white colonizers? In terms of prequels, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is still my favorite. I think doing prequels is at least interesting in terms of trying to do something different with a franchise, like in a sense of a rise and fall. Okay, I get where you're going with this. Well, I mean, then again, like, if it's not going to interest you that much to see it on the big screen and just say, wait for streaming, that's still a concerning thing for Disney. But still, though, I mean, I am still, like, I do understand what you're talking about. I am still open to the possible idea that maybe Mufasa will turn out to be better than we may all expect. And I mean, it'll be just like with Transformers 1, which that turned out to be a very solid film and debatably the best Transformers movie out there. So maybe there is a possibility that we will see if maybe Mufasa could do the same. It's unlikely, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. And by the way, according to the poll right over here, it looks like 63% of you who have voted said, no, you're not really that convinced, or you're not any more convinced that Mufasa could be good. Like, there is still a lot of skepticism going around, I see. Not that much, because there are some of you who did say yes, but for the most part, it's like, not really. Anyways, let's see what other comments are there. I feel like these prequel movies about how the enemies were once best friends is becoming more and more common. We have already gotten X-Men First Class and of course the Star Wars prequels. Honestly, I am noticing the animals emoting more, which I am glad they took note of the criticism of last time. That said, they now look creepy and belong in my nightmares. Exactly. I feel like that's one of those be careful what you wish for kind of things. It's like, yeah, even I do notice that, you know, the animals are emoting more, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Now there's like kind of this extra dab of like uncanny valley. You know, they went from emotionless to being oddly emotional. It's like, ugh, you know, it's like, you know, like, okay, fine. They're acknowledging more that they're animated characters, but they still look like realistic animals. And now they're doing things that realistic animals shouldn't really do. And it's like, I don't know, man. Could you please not do that, Mufasa? That ain't a, yeah, I don't like that. All right. Anyways, let's see what other comments we got. I'm feeling a bit split about this. Like, I do see the concept, and all does feel very appealing, even for a Lion King prequel. And I do feel anticipated for the song, since I do love musicals. But honestly, I like to know if The Prince of Egypt is starting to become a popular subject to adapt. Of course, or in your case, Transformers 1. I'll admit that it's a good idea, but everything else is still feeling very iffy. If make it good as it presents, especially the animation, makes me miss the blank expressions. It's a we'll see. All right. Yeah, that like I said, it's like at best, it's a wait and see. Anyways, we got one more comment to read. The idea for this Lion King prequel is a fantastic idea. I just wish it was made by Disney Animation and hand-drawn animation instead. I know these guys will do a way better job than whatever the live action department would do. I do like Barry Jenkins and he deserves to work on this film, but I feel like this movie is being treated like a generic cheesy live action movie with pretty visual effects. But I'll wait and see what happens for this when it's competing against Sonic 3. Alright, that's fair. So yeah, like, you know, maybe there is a bit of potential that it could turn out to be good, but so far, not really. Like, I think at best, well, at least we could, you know, I think we're pretty confident to say that, you know, maybe it won't be the worst movie that'll come out this year. But once again, if you are interested in checking out Mufasa the Lion King, then keep in mind it will be coming soon to theaters on December 20th. And with that said, we are now going to go and jump onto our next story, and we will be staying in the realms of Disney. And if what they're doing with Mufasa doesn't upset you, then maybe on our next story, it definitely will. Especially when, well, they will be releasing Mufasa, but they did get backlash for not releasing this. Welcome back. Now, on our next story, we will be discussing about something controversial that has happened in the last week, especially a new reason why people got upset at Disney. And this time around, yeah, I'm going to go inside with the people on this one, because the more I look at it, the more upset that I do get with Disney. And it's already bad enough that it is related to a very beloved series, one that people really really enjoyed and even considered to be one of the best new animated shows that Disney put out in recent years. And yet, it ended up being short-lived, where after making 2 seasons, they decided to go and cancel it. But if that wasn't bad enough, there is one episode in that season 2 that they have yet to air that talks about a very important issue. And what I'm talking about, of course, is regarding Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, specifically with the episode The Gatekeeper. Now, what happened was that apparently there has been an episode that a lot of people have been talking about in season 2 of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur called The Gatekeeper. And specifically, it discusses not just about trans issues, but also about trans people playing in sports, which has often been a very topical subject matter that has often been brought up on social media and the news and again and again and again. Like it's something that, to put it nicely, has been talked about quite a bit. But to go into specifics on what this episode is about, I'll go and read you here from my source on Polygon. As it states, early in the episode, The Gatekeeper, Brooklyn, who is a recurring character that does identify as trans, recalls her time spent playing soccer and the darkness of me having to play on the boys' team. Brooklyn's comments about her athletic past are overheard by the opposing team coach, Greer, played by Amy Sedaris, who tries to have the teenager disqualified from the game. But Brooklyn's coach, gym teacher Coach Herbeck, tells Greer Brooklyn is a girl and she's gonna play. The episode then veers into supervillain territory as Greer uses a magical key to confine Brooklyn, her teammates, and water girl Lunella, whom by the way, she is Moon Girl, in the girls' locker room. Brooklyn, who is voiced by actor India Moore, identifies as trans to her peers in the episode. "I'm trans. My very existence breaks Greer's rules," she tells her teammates before breaking down into tears. Brooklyn's trans identity is further communicated through imagery. Brooklyn wears Pride-themed knee pads and has a "Trans is Beautiful" sticker on her water bottle. The episode's color palette is saturated in hues from the transgender flag. Its theme of prejudice, exclusion, and finding support through progressive allies is unmissable. And from there, the people who have seen it, and especially the people who made it, they love the episode, especially with the way that it is straightforward in terms about not just discussing about the trans identity and discussing about issues that trans people face on a regular occasion, but also discussing about trans people in sports specifically, and how there are those oppositions who would go and try to disqualify trans people because of their identity, because they're not biologically their gender. And what's very interesting is the way that they would mention about how they would use the color palette and even the themes about prejudice, exclusion, and finding support through progressive allies. You know, it honestly reminds me a lot of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and when they look into Gwen Stacy, because they did a lot of the same things with Gwen, where there's a major reason why there are rumors and a lot of speculations stating that Gwen in the Spider-Verse films is actually transgender, especially with the fact that she would show those themes of exclusion, not to mention like having a complex relationship with her father, which is part of that prejudice and exclusion that she would face regularly with her identity of being Spider-Man, or Spider-Woman in this case. And then there's also the factor of the color palette that is often used, especially in her world, where often when we see Gwen Stacy, she would have the imagery and like a prominent color palette of that light blue, light pink, and white that is so prominently featured with her moments. And not to mention that when you see like one shot in her room, that she actually has a poster that actually identifies as trans. And I think it actually says protect trans kids. So I'm just saying right now, if Gwen Stacy actually does come out as trans in Beyond the Spider-Verse, I'll be honest, I am not surprised. So basically the point that I want to make is that what they did in Across the Spider-Verse is a lot like with what they did in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur with Brooklyn in the episode The Gatekeeper. Although I will say with The Gatekeeper, they were a lot more straightforward with the trans issues. And honestly, it's something that I highly applaud them for. However, it turns out that this episode may not see the light of day, or at least that is according to the people who have worked on it. If we go and switch up to Tumblr right over here, there was actually this Reddit post or actually a Reddit thread that actually shows an artist who did work on that particular episode expressing their grief of the fact that it ain't going to be coming out anytime soon. In which they stated over here where the artist stated, "Hey, I worked in Moon Girl, and yes, a really cool episode wasn't aired, and it's so sad." Someone questioned, do you know if it's ever going to air or will it air with the next batch? And they stated, "I don't know. It was one of the early episodes of season 2, so I'm not sure." And then another person asked, "Can you share what the episode is about?" And the artist stated, "Kind of scared of the NDA, so I'll just say that it was about Brooklyn. If you put attention to details about the character, you could figure out about what the theme and why it was canned." So in that regards, it's a pretty clear hint of the fact that, okay, it's about Brooklyn and it's something about her. So it's pretty much indicating that, yes, they're talking about the Gatekeeper episode. And then this is followed up with right over here, which is a Blue Sky post from Derek Malik Johnson, in which they stated, so guess I finally got hit with one of the project episode that I worked on is getting shelved because of which party that won the recent election. It breaks my heart knowing this impactful and amazing episode is now about to be considered a lost media episode. And that's pretty much the big news that has been going around, is the fact that The Gatekeeper has been reported that it is going to be shelved by Disney because of, well, I think we can pretty much state the obvious of the fact that Donald Trump won the US election. And because of that, because of how the election went towards the Republican side, Disney decided to go and completely hide the episode that discusses about trans issues. And from there, though, Disney did go and actually made a response over here. And going down in this Polygon article, it has stated, according to a source at Disney, the decision to hold the episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur was made more than a year ago and was not based on the result of the recent US elections. That source said that in this case, this decision was based on this specific episode, not because of the character being trans. They said the episode is not specifically banned from airing, but being held. It is unclear if the episode will ever see an official release. They went on to continue by saying that the source said that Disney is really proud of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, noting that its target age range is kids aged 6 to 12, and that the company is respectful of the role that parents play in the discussions they have with their children. So I just want to go and get this out of the way. You know, let's just say in theory that maybe Disney is right. Maybe they're telling the truth that they didn't actually, you know, it's not really because of the fact that Brooklyn is trans or how they're having trans discussions in the episode or anything like that. It's just the fact that they didn't, they're not ready to go and air that episode as of yet, considering that there are actually several episodes of season 2 that they haven't aired or haven't decided to go and air on the Disney Channel or anything like that. Still, though, it's not really a good idea, or it's not really making you look good there, Disney, considering that fans of the show are already massively upset of the fact that you've already canceled Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. You're not going to give it a season 3 or anything like that. And on top of that, you have a whole bunch of episodes that you're unsure that you want to air. And one of these episodes in particular discusses about a very important issue that is currently happening in this world, and you decided to not go and show it. Like, already right there, it's unavoidable how that is going to make you look bad, regardless of anything that you can do. But with that said, though, honestly, I feel like I would believe a bit more of the artists in this case. I feel like maybe they're actually telling the truth, because the idea of Disney holding an episode back like this because of the issues that they are discussing, especially when they are very prominent in terms of its LGBTQ plus themes. And yes, it does count, considering that trans people are part of the LGBTQ plus community. That is something that we have already known Disney has already done again and again and again, considering that behind the scenes, when it comes to Disney's executives making all the big decisions, they have a very stern conservative view on the LGBTQ plus community and are very hesitant in terms of presenting them in their projects. Excuse me for a sec. Sorry, I just needed to get that out of the way. But anyways, getting back to what I was talking about, I mean, we've seen and we've known that Disney has been doing that again and again and again. Like, back when Blue Sky Studios was still up and running, like, Disney was known to, like, try to take control of Nimona so that they could try to, like, make both Nimona and Ballister less gay or less non-binary, trying to take that element out of them, or at least try to significantly reduce it to the point of being virtually unnoticeable. And then there is also Lightyear, where they wanted to get rid of the same-sex kiss. Now, we barely saw that same-sex kiss, but still, though, like, they just wanted to flat out remove that one in fear of making it, it looks a little too obvious that they're a couple, even though, like, they pretty much made it clear that they are a couple in the first place. It's honestly a bit of a ridiculous decision right there, and, like, one that feels like it's much more trouble than it's worth of the fact that they would even meddle with that thing in the first place. And then recently this year, just a few months ago, we heard about how they're so paranoid about presenting their characters that maybe they might be gay that they would do everything in their power. They put in more effort than they should in order to ensure that their characters are presented as straight as possible. And that is exactly the case with Riley in Inside Out 2. I love that movie, but hearing what they tried to do behind the scenes to try to really emphasize that Riley and whatever relationship that she has with any other girls in the feature, whether it be her friends or with Val, like, try to be as platonic as they can be, that honestly sounds a little too stupid and ridiculous. So considering that history that Disney has with the way that they would keep on trying to censor LGBTQ plus themes, or trying to work on so much of it that they just want to ensure that nothing even looks gay in the first place, then honestly, it feels very credible that Disney would go and do something like that. Like, even with or without the reasoning of what happened in the US election, I feel like I can easily see Disney take away the Gatekeeper episode because of how it discusses about trans issues and stuff like that. And this is one thing I just want to say right now, like, it honestly pisses me off, and it needs to be called out that, honestly, I am sick and tired of people and companies trying to use politics as an excuse to not do something or to not engage with anything or to not discuss about something whatsoever, often using that as a criticism to shut down these important discussions worth having. And the only thing that it does is just enable not just ignorance, but also enable prejudice. Like it feels like a very fancy way and in a way that actually makes it look pretty to say like, oh, I want to maintain my ignorance and my prejudice towards these groups. So I don't want to talk about that. But they don't want to say that because obviously it would make them look like the bad guy. So what they say is, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. Oh, I don't want to go into that because that's political. Like, it's bullcrap. And honestly, this is why people need to be, those kinds of people need to be pressured into specifying what they actually mean. Because just saying that it's politics means absolutely nothing. And I say this as someone who has often been called political. I'm sure you have probably seen people denouncing me saying that, oh, I don't watch AniMat's. He's too political. Oh, I don't know. I don't like AniMat's because he talks about politics. I'm sure you probably come across that on the internet from time to time, again and again and again. But they never go into specifics on how I am political, on what I do when I talk about politics specifically. They don't mention how I call out the hypocrisy and the corruption that happens with Republicans. They don't mention how I call out the injustices of racism, of bigotry, of all these kinds of prejudices and discrimination. Like, they don't mention how I'm not afraid to even call out those who would go and promote hate speech and harassment. That's what they don't tell you when they say that, oh, I talk about politics. And you know what? I have enough of that freaking crap. That's not a godforsaken criticism. Say what you actually mean. Actually clarify what you say. Because saying that I'm political is not a criticism. It's not a thing that you could denounce me for. And it's the same thing with this Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It is not a valid excuse to not actually show this episode. And there are people out there who don't want to go and take it anymore. And this is exactly why, to this day, people actually went and actually leaked the episode on the internet. You can actually go and find it either on Twitter or on YouTube, but then from there, they would just go and immediately take it down. Disney would go and take it down. But if you do want to find it, well, you can actually go and check it out right over here. For now, it is in its permanent home in the in the Internet Archives at archives.org, where you can actually find the episode in full. And if you guys want to go and check it out, I highly recommend you do so. It is actually really awesome, considering that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is already an epic series. This one over here is another great example of how it actually is amazing. So I highly recommend you go and watch it. But yeah, overall, I think the way that Disney is handling this, regardless of their intentions, it's just really bad. And honestly, this is a case where Disney is getting a lot of backlash from the internet. But in this case, I gotta say, yeah, no, it's very clear that they absolutely deserve it. So with that said now, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, how do you all feel about the controversy with Disney not airing the Gatekeeper episode? And especially if you are a fan of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and if you have seen the episode The Gatekeeper, I would love to know your thoughts on that. All right, so let's see what we got over here. This is a time where trans youth could have used an episode like this the most, but with Disney pulling it, it can be best described in one word: cowardice. It's clear that they're too scared to fully commit to their support, so the fact that they have to hide their work, and also the fact that this isn't the first time that this happened, just proves Alex's point is evergreen. Disney, seriously, do better. Exactly. And this is the one thing that I find so hypocritical about Disney, is that I think with this, it really does prove of how Disney is just they prioritize profits over everything. And the entire imagery of being progressive and stuff like that it's only questionable at best. And I don't mean just this right over here, but it's also the fact that this week they also pulled off this freaking crap. The fact that Disney, alongside with many other big corporations such as Comcast, Warner Brothers Discovery, IBM, and Lionsgate, all decided to go and resume their advertising on Twitter. Which honestly, I just need to ask, why? Who are you going to be advertising for? Because ever since Donald Trump won the election, there has been a mass exodus in terms of Twitter. And now there have been like literally millions of people who decided to quit that sinking ship and go onto other websites such as Blue Sky. So honestly, I'm just looking at this and like, I'm curious to know, it's like, why is Disney trying to do this? Like, are they trying to please Elon Musk now that he got this new position in the freaking Trump administration or the upcoming Trump administration where he's going to ruin America with his white nationalism and stuff like that? Like, why would you go and do this? Like, why would you even want to advertise on Twitter? Are you going to go and show Moana 2 to the people who hate the kind of people that are in the movie in the first place because of the color of their skin? Like, what? Do you want to, like, are you advertising Moana 2 to a bunch of white nationalists who just want to shoot people who look like Moana? Like, is that what you want to do, Disney? Seriously, this is already a freaking bad look as is when you want to go and advertise to a website that's already becoming irrelevant. It's honestly ridiculous. I just really need to get that out of the way. Anyways, what other comments do we have here? Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is one of my favorite Disney animated series, along with Primos, and I have an amazing relationship with a few crew members of the show, and they gave me one awesome poster of the show signed by the crew. Oh, awesome. I know the show already has a strong diversity since season 1, but this is much for Disney? I honestly don't believe in their BS statement. Now it is a lost episode? Yeah, screw these executives. This is not a Disney issue, it's the country's issue in general. Oh, I completely understand. Yeah, like, honestly, like, the issue that is happening with trans representation and stuff like that, it is not exclusive to Disney. It is like, you know, in general, like, I'm sure that, like, I know there are other companies like with Comcast and Warner Brothers and Sony and stuff like that. They can be guilty of the same thing. Anyways, let's see. I am not happy with what Disney executives have done. This also happened to Inside Out 2's production. Speaking of that, Pixar also canceled a lot of LGBTQ+ related projects that will never see the light of day now that they laid off a ton of people from the Pixar Spark Shorts program and scapegoated Lightyear's Lesbian Kiss for its poor box office performance. It's like Disney only listened to people who watched old movies that don't age well or may be uncomfortable for the modern era these days. Well, that's the thing, is that right now, Disney is not really in the mood to go and take risks. Or at least, like, that's what we have heard in terms of the Pixar case, is that having LGBTQ+ representation is considered to be too risky nowadays, because they know that with Trump supporters, they'll have their mental disorder be triggered and want to activate their guns with the mass shootings that they regularly cause. So from there, they don't want to go and cause any trouble, and they just want to play it safe. And that's a major problem right over there, because the fact that they want to play it safe, it hinders on their creativity. Let's see, what else do we have here? Having watched the episode, I really wish they did release it because of the inevitable humor, inevitably hilarious and stupid backlash it would get, especially since the villain of the episode is an antagonistic Karen. Moon Girl is a great show, partly to how it manages to tackle social issues in a way that is kid-friendly but not pandering. And this episode is another example. Good on the Moon Girl team for being brave for making the episode to begin with. Oh yeah, exactly. I like, if there is a positive note to say, like, honestly, we really got to give props to the team at Disney Television Animation for not just making Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur the show that it is today, but especially for making that episode. Like, honestly, it is a beautiful highlight of that series. All right, let's see what other comments do we have here. Let's see now. Okay, here we go. This entire situation made me feel very pissed off. And honestly, given the track record they got with LGBTQ plus representation, it's very clear that Disney just didn't care, especially how they treated the Owl House and Haley Zonnet. The move they pulled is really stupid and idiotic. They deserve a huge L for that. Alex Hirsch is right with their practices, if you know that tweet. Yeah, pretty much so. Oh boy, Alex, how weird is it that Alex Hirsch is suddenly making a comeback, and it's through that in particular? Let's see, what other comments would there be that I haven't read yet? To say this was the kind of issue I was talking about when Disney was canning their shows, especially to Moon Girl having the bravery to go in extreme taboo subjects is what makes the series so amazing. I saw the episode, by the way. The villain, too over the top, but it was fantastic nonetheless. It's just a shame that whoever at Disney is causing this much issue to shelve this is hiding and ironically gatekeeping from airing, and I can't help if there's anything to do but to be in frustration and rant. Well, I mean, yeah, there is the fact. I mean, again, like there is the fact that you could check out the episode in the Internet Archives. It's not an official release, but at least it is out there. And yeah, I will say that it's true that there is like a real irony in this entire case, because the one episode that Disney is gatekeeping because of its topical issues that it discusses is literally called The Gatekeeper. And I think I'll just read one more comment real quick. Let's see. Is there any one quick comment to go and say? Here, I'll just go with this one. This is another case of Disney being scummy as usual. Not only did they can Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but the addition of the company shelving an episode is a depressing reminder that Disney doesn't care about the community they claim to care about. They seriously caved in to the voices of those anti-woke grifters that complain on YouTube 24/7, hoping there will be justice for the crew that worked on the show for the episode to be preserved. Yeah, honestly, that's the best thing that we can do now is to go and preserve it. And if you can, not just check this out, but also don't forget to go and delete it. So at least like you would have an episode that you can have on your own that even if this gets taken down, well, at least you'll still have it on your hard drives. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to our next break, and we're going to go and have a moment to step aside from Disney, and we're going to look at another company who has gotten a lot of backlash. But this time around, they made the holidays look extremely gross. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. And I am so sorry that I have to report this to you all, but the holidays are just around the corner. In just over a month, we will be celebrating the holidays, whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or whatever. Yes, it's coming much sooner than you think. Like you'll spend a few days doing what you do, but then suddenly, pretty soon, you're gonna start decorating your house or decorating your room, and then suddenly, whoops! Look at under your tree, or wherever it is, you suddenly got presents and stuff like that, and holy crap, it's gonna be 2025. But of course, with the holidays coming in, you probably have already seen some commercials that are based on the holidays, or especially Christmas. You've seen them passing on TV, or maybe passing on the internet. But there is one commercial, however, that many people are anticipated to go and check out, which has turned into a true holiday tradition, which is Coca-Cola, which is often known to have some of the most memorable and most impactful Christmas commercials out there. And this year, well, they are definitely making an impact, but let's just say that this impact right over here is a lot more different. So let me just show you the commercial that they have. And don't worry, it's a very quick one. It's only about like 15 seconds. So let me show you what they have. Okay, so I thought we could do full screen, but okay, it might be small if you are watching this, but check this out.
Holidays are coming, holidays are coming, holidays are coming, holidays are coming. 'Tis the season, it's always Coca-Cola.
So yes, that was the new, or at least one of the new Coca-Cola commercials that they have this year. But the big difference compared to all the other ones that they have done is that this is AI generated. Yes, they have used artificial intelligence in order to go and craft this commercial. To go into specifics, I will read you here from my source on Forbes, in which it states here, 3 AI studios, Secret Level, Silverside AI, and Wildcard, worked to create these ads using the generative AI models Leonardo, Luma, and Runway. Wait. Ooh. Okay, sorry, I had to go and retweak my body a little bit in order to continue reading. Anyways, with a new model, Kling, brought in near the end of production. Interestingly, these new AI generative ads highlight the weaknesses and hard limitations of the current wave of video generative models. They even mentioned that there is even some moments where they had to go and hire some people to add a bit of a human touch as well in order to go and refine it. If I would go and find that little moment, I think they mentioned that in this article, but I mean, when we get there, we'll go and actually, I'll go and talk about it further. But yes, and as you can imagine, by the way, the fact that they would go and bring out some AI generated commercials, it received a lot of backlash on the internet. In fact, the grand majority of the reactions have been nothing but backlash, with some messages where they would go and say, as someone else, one here from Mr. Chow on Twitter is stated, as someone else said, it's really probably because generative AI cannot produce more than that has even been semi-coherent. Pretty much answering to a question that someone asked, is every shot in this 0.9 seconds or something? It's bad to look at, but I also don't like the flow. And people would even continue, like someone even joked at how that apparently apparently saying, looks awesome. Absolutely no scale or proportional issues here at all. And as you could see in this image, like you got like a group of people that are in the bottom left that are just standing there. And compared to the size of them to the Coca-Cola truck over here, it's either the people are just absolutely gigantic, like almost the same size as the truck, or these trucks are just absolutely teeny tiny over here. But then there's also like the same reactions, people expressing a lot of their disgust about the backgrounds and criticizing a lot about this commercial in particular. So as you can imagine, a lot of people are really hating this AI generated commercial that they have provided. And I gotta say, like, even looking at this, like, yeah, there's just so much that is wrong about it. And even like, I'll even mention that in terms of the flow that they would go and present, like, that's one thing I just want to say. Yeah, it is true that it feels like the editing of this is absolutely awful. Like, it's a little too snappy in terms of showing like these random images one after another that honestly don't really feel like they connect all that much. Like, you got like one shot and then one shot and one shot, and then one shot of people smiling. Oh, but here's another shot. Oh, here's a shot right here. Oh, here's a shot. Here's a shot. All right, here's a shot over here. Oh, all right, here's a shot. You know, it's just like, it jumps way too quickly. Like whatever narrative that they want to tell is just so hard to go and follow. You know, it feels just way too snappy. And that's one thing that you could tell that it is AI generated. And one massive problem when it comes to AI is that it doesn't have a comprehension in terms of editing skills, in terms of the flow of storytelling. They think that because it's a commercial, that they need to go and cram in so much of the same imagery that we are familiar with, like one after another. Like, it's like, it took all the information of what is a Coca-Cola commercial and tried to cram that in all at the same time. And you get like all these random moments that don't seem to really make sense. Like you got the truck that, like you got a whole bunch of trucks, which I just want to say right now, like you never see all these other trucks. It's just this one. And by the way, I just want to go and quickly notice that, okay, maybe it's just me. Okay. Yeah. Like there's something about these trucks that, they're very inconsistent. Like you look at this truck, you know what? No, it's not just me. Like you look at these trucks, they are very inconsistent. This truck is not the same as this truck, or even this truck is also completely different as well. Like they keep changing things up. And then of course you suddenly get this random image of a polar bear, and like next to them is this like a mountain of a village right over here. Like this has no point in here whatsoever. And then suddenly it's like, okay, well now like we're suddenly in a city and people just randomly laughing like, oh God. And then the hands. Oh my goodness, the freaking hands. Like, okay, I think we all know that when it comes to AI, they suck at making hands. Like, even if you're not a drawer, as long as you can make like 5 sausages on a ball, you're able to draw a hand way better than AI can. And even with this one, like, honestly, a lot of their hands look freaky. Like, okay, like you get this shot over here. Like you got this, this smiling guy, and like he had like these nails, which like looking at it here, like they're oddly pink. Like honestly, like some people could argue, oh, it's just because of the lighting, but no, it's like, am I the only one who's noticing it's like how weirdly pink his fingernails are? And then suddenly you look into the next shot, it's like, okay, it's supposed to be Santa holding this, but as you may notice, at least this guy has fingernails. Santa doesn't have that much fingernails here. This honestly looks a little bit strange. Like, what the fridge are you doing here? Not to mention, like, okay, and then this shot. This one honestly freaks me out because, like, you look at the image of Santa here, which, okay, I guess this is now a completely different truck again. And then you look at this and it's like, I don't know. Am I the only one who's noticing? Like, there's something over here that's, like, wiggling around. I don't know. It's like the truck is oddly coming to life. And then suddenly we cut over here, which it looks like a completely different village than what we have gotten before. Like, it's obviously not this village here. It's not this village, maybe. But this is just, it makes no sense. There's just too many different inconsistencies that it just makes it problematic, and it makes it objectively awful to look at. And yes, I know it's pretty harsh to say that something is objective, that is objectively bad or anything like that. But keep in mind that this is AI generated. At the very least, the grand majority of it was not handled by people whatsoever, or it's not crafted by people. Like this is all just computers. This is all just computers just taking a lot of the same information that people are familiar with in terms of what makes a Coca-Cola commercial so popular, and then they just go from there. That's all that it is. And it's like, it really is one of those cases that when it comes to AI, the closer you look at it, the more gross that it is. Like, you see so much of the imperfections that makes it less and less appealing. But the big problem with that is that with AI, even nowadays, like even just on a surface level, it looks awful, and you'll immediately go and catch what is wrong with it. It's just the flow, like it's not just with the images themselves, but it's also with the flow and how the images just go and they move one at a time. They're not, like, it is far from the point of actually being ready to be used for commercial use. And whenever they do, well, of course, they're going to be met with significant backlash. They're going to be responded with a lot of hate with this entire commercial, or these sets of commercials that they have created. And also, speaking of which, there is something that I do want to really go and check out. Like, is it actually true that there are some people that are going, that have actually worked on this, or is it just Well, let's see. I just want to go and see, like, were people actually involved to go and touch up on the commercial? Just want to see if let's see. Yeah, like, okay, they mentioned like some of the criticisms. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, more of that. Let's see. Where would it be? Okay, yeah. Okay, I think it's right over here. Yeah, this is what I was talking about the whole time. Okay. Interestingly, many of the shots are clearly touched up, as generative AI is unable to create video that contains coherent text, but there are Coca-Cola logos everywhere. These shots represent the best efforts out of many attempts, with the models spitting out plenty of unusable footage that was discarded. According to Zada, a simple opening shot featuring an AI-generated squirrel proved particularly tricky. We must have run that squirrel through AI in the beginning of that video a couple of 100 times. You know, and the funny thing is that I didn't even notice a squirrel. And yeah, honestly, I can imagine that there might have been some artists that went in there and actually do some legitimate touch-ups. Because the only thing in that commercial that was actually consistent, that actually looked fine, is just the Coca-Cola logo. Like, even when it's presented on the side right over here, or like even like when you see it on the side of the truck, or even like just like over here, even on the bottles, they seem perfectly fine. Like, that's the one thing that this commercial actually did okay, is just to present the Coca-Cola logo, and that is it. And yet everything else just looks like absolute garbage. And at that point, if you're going to be bringing in people to go and do those touch-ups to ensure that some parts actually do look fine, then what the fridge is the point of making it in AI in the first place? Why can't you just get actual people to go and create the logos? And the biggest reason why this is so offensive and why this is getting so many backlash is because of what I've mentioned in the beginning, is because of the iconography of the Coca-Cola ads, especially around Christmas time, considering that Coca-Cola played a very significant role in shaping the imagery of what Christmas is today. No joke, it's because of Coca-Cola that we have the imagery of Santa Claus that we know today. Specifically, the Santa image that is created by Haddon Sundblom. Like, this is the one. Like, this is the Santa that everybody knows and loves nowadays. But because of that, from there, Coca-Cola became like a leader in terms of the imagery of what can be considered, what is like, what is like visually presented as Christmas, even with a Coca-Cola bottle. And this is not even to mention that, like, much later on, they also created the polar bears as well, which they kind of became like mascots in their own right. So from there, like, with Coca-Cola, like, you'd expect, like, if you're, like, if you want to wait for like top tier Christmas commercials, usually you would expect them from Coca-Cola. But the fact that they would go in and try to do AI generated garbage like this, it's like, it's something that I can't help but feel like it's depressing. It is, at best, a massive letdown. It's the fact that they decided to go in the cheap route because they don't want to spend that much, they don't want to have the money to go and spend it on actual artists to make a legitimate commercial, and instead they wasted it on garbage tech that doesn't even work. And as a result, it brought us this piece of crap right over here with people that have missing, that have missing fingernails, with inconsistent trucks, with like really horrible editing, and with like freaky, and another truck that has like weird moving images and stuff like that. No, it just feels like almost like just about nothing in this works. The only thing that works here is the logo, and that is it. It's honestly ridiculous, and I'd even say it's just absolutely it's shameful. And it's because Coca-Cola decided to just be cheap. I think that's really the big takeaway of all this, is that Coca-Cola doesn't want to spend they don't want to spend money anymore, so they resorted to using AI-generated crap, and that is it. You know, this is unfortunately an example of greedy corporations who decided that their priority is to spend less money in general, and they're willing to go and take away the salaries and job opportunities of artists in order to go and keep as much money as possible. And it's, you know, it's disgraceful. It really is. And it's something that honestly, I can't help but feel like Coca-Cola needs to be called out on that. So honestly, when it comes to this commercial, I really do hope that they're not going to air this on television. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go and have a Coke anytime soon. It's been a long time since I've had a Coke in the first place, but safe to say that I don't think these commercials make me want to drink a Coke. So with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you all think of the Coca-Cola AI Christmas commercial? Did you guys find a bit more positives on this than I did? Did you guys hate that commercial we have just seen? Let me know what you all think about this. All right, so let's see here. I just heard about the commercial this morning. I can't believe this would be made with AI, especially after Apple did another commercial similar to this, despite not using AI entirely in that commercial. I heard there was already backlash about it on the internet. I wouldn't be surprised if the company would issue an apology, but of course, I could be wrong. To be honest, I don't know. Like, I can imagine that Coca-Cola would have like a not give an F attitude to go and present the commercial regardless of how people feel about it. Like, they're just happy that they saved so much money on doing those commercials with AI and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, it could be possible they'll send out an apology with how bad the commercial looks, but at this point, I don't know. I could imagine they'll just roll with it because, hey, they get to keep some money for themselves, and for them, that's all they care about. Let's see what else we got here. This ad was pretty much Coca-Cola giving themselves self-inflicted Coke and ball torture. Am I right? For real, the ad was terrible enough on its own, but I have to ask, what was even the point of updating it at all, let alone with AI? If Hershey, Earn Blue, and M&M's could keep their old ads running, why not Coca-Cola? Did they forget to make the cocaine? Did they forget to take the cocaine out of the drinks when making it? Overall, when it comes to Christmas beverages, I'm just gonna ask the age-old query: want a Sprite cranberry? Oh boy. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I have been thinking about this. But I am considering, like, I did see a few recipes on like how to make your own eggnog, and I am curious if I want to go and try that out. I've recently been more into cooking, so I want to see if I could go and try out, like, I'll make my own eggnog and I'll bring it over for like the family Christmas gathering. That could be an interesting idea. Definitely a better option than to bring in some Coke and like, here, have a Coke. And then like, I'll just hand it over. And like, you notice like, oh, 3 of my fingernails are suddenly gone. Anyways, first they screwed up the Hershey's Kisses ad 1 year. Now this, when are they going to learn that AI isn't perfect? Or I would even double down on that. When are they going to learn that AI isn't good? It's been proven countless of times that it doesn't work. It just looks weird and inconsistent, among other things. Please hire actual human animators to work on your commercials. It's much better than having a computer do it. Exactly. Let's see what else we got here. First, Coca-Cola is in the boycott list for supporting genocide, and now they made Christmas commercials with cheap AI technology. I am so tired of stupid businessmen and companies being obsessed with AI. I am sorry, but artists are much more creative than AI technology needs to, and AI technology needs to die out. By the way, do AniMat watches on the first AI animated film Where the Robots Grow, which is free on YouTube for whatever reason. To be very honest, I'm gonna debate on that, mainly because, like, for now, it feels like, regardless if I call it a piece of garbage, it would give it free advertising, and it's like, the old saying of there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think I'd much rather wait until, like, AI officially dies down and becomes less popular, where I would feel more comfortable to go and make fun of it. It's like, I am debating, but I don't know when AI is still considered to be a popular thing and that companies think that it's a great money-saving technology. So I'll put that on hold. I'm not saying no just yet, but I'm not going to immediately jump in to go and make that AniMat watches. All right, let's see. I hate how this commercial, AI or not, is pretty bad. From the scary nail Santa to the iconic polar bears pretty much getting ignored, it's so upsetting how they're ruining their image. If they're too cheap to create a new commercial, then just re-release one of the original commercials. It's iconic and can be remembered for the ages. Instead of drinking Coke, I'd rather do Coke instead. Stupid joke, I know. I understand. But it's just like what another commenter said. Like, why not bring back one of those old commercials? Like, and M&M is honestly one of the best examples of that. Honestly, it's hard to imagine going with, it's hard to imagine to go on a Christmas without hearing the yellow M&M asking, "So do you think Santa will like these red and green M&Ms? I don't know. I never met the guy." He does exist. They do exist. Whoa. That feels like a true Christmas staple. It's hard to imagine to go without it. And they haven't changed that since. I mean, there was at one point a few years ago, they did do a sequel of that, but just re-releasing that, it feels like traditional Christmas. So why can't Coca-Cola do the same? Just, you don't have to make a new commercial. Just re-air one of those old classic commercials and you're good to go. But then again, I don't know, like, or maybe, come to think about it, like, my acting side just popped up and just said, no, just make a new commercial without AI. Hire more people, hire actors like me to be in those commercials. Like, it's just something just popped in my head. And it's like, hold on, I'm an actor. I need more opportunities. Don't re-release commercials. Make new ones and hire more people. Okay. Anyways, what else do we have here? Coke's Christmas commercials are very iconic, but for this year, ew, what are you doing, Coca-Cola? AI commercials are very awful and terrible. From the trucks to the people to the bears, it's very messy. Just be happy that I stick with Pepsi. At least there's no AI in it. Also, very iconic how Coke's slogan is real magic when AI is anything but real magic. Oh my God, that is actually true. Like, it's kind of weird that the commercial does end off by saying real magic. And it's like, dude, you're using AI. Like, like artificial is in the name. You can't say that it's real when you're using something that's artificial to make it. And I'm not just talking about the Coke itself. All right, I'll read one more comment before we go on our next commercial here. Let's see, which one is it? Oh, okay, here. Well, congratulations, Coca-Cola. You have officially ruined Christmas this year. I thought this will never happen to Coca-Cola, but they did. The same company that redesigned Santa Claus the way we look at him today. But this AI crappertisement is one of the worst commercials I've seen, and it's making the head-on commercial looks good in comparison. Bad show, Coke. Thank God I'm now drinking Dr. Pepper. Or, another option is just like, drink something healthier. You don't have to go with like Pepsi or Mountain Dew or anything like that. You could drink water. That's also a good alternative. Instead of drinking Coke, drink water. It's always important to stay hydrated. Hey, I know I do. In fact, that's one of the main things I do during these breaks. There we go. But speaking of which, we're going to go on to our next break. And when we come back, I know there's been a lot of people who have been waiting for me to talk about this particular news right over here. Because in 2026, not only are we going to be getting the comeback of Shrek and Toy Story, but we're also going to be having the comeback of this chili trio. Welcome back. Now, on our next story, we will be talking about an event that happened not last weekend, but the weekend before it, which is D23 in Brazil. Yes, Disney hosted a D23 in Brazil, apparently. Like, I am aware that they do so in Japan, and of course, you got Anaheim as well, but apparently Brazil would get one as well. And in terms of what they have revealed there, it's nothing as major compared to the one that we have gotten in the summer. At the most, they would go and expand upon what has already been revealed. Like they have, excuse me, folks, but they have shown a lot of new images for the third Avatar movie that I remember. It is actually where they actually premiered the final trailer of Mufasa the Lion King. And I do believe they also showed that one extra image of Stitch for the upcoming Lilo and Stitch remake. And also they expanded a bit on what to expect just a little bit on the upcoming Villains Land in the Magic Kingdom, highlighting some of the villains that will be prominently featured in the area. But out of all the announcements and all the things that they have discussed about, the biggest one of them all is honestly one that is pretty shocking. The most unexpected. One that people thought this wouldn't make a comeback. You'd think that it's all officially over. But oh no, apparently there's a lot more stories to tell with Ice Age. Yes, folks. Ice Age is going to be coming back with a 6th movie. Now, before I continue, I just want to go and answer the question. Now, I know some people might be thinking, well, isn't there already a 6th Ice Age movie? You know, back a couple of years ago, they released that Buck Wild spin-off film that starred Crash and Eddie and also featured Buck Wild doing their little shenanigans and stuff like that. Well, technically, yes. But I'll say now that Disney is actually doing a good thing with this, and that is to not acknowledge that movie. I mean, that thing was so terrible that it's honestly understandable why they would not want to count this as a 6th movie, or they don't want to count that as part of the canon of Ice Age at all. So that's one thing I'll give Disney credit for, is give this, to give the upcoming feature the credit of being the 6th movie instead of the Buck Wild garbage right there. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about, not a lot is actually known about this feature in particular. The only thing that they have confirmed is that Disney is indeed going to be working on the 6th Ice Age movie, and it's going to be brought to us by both Disney and 20th Century Animation. And on top of that, they have confirmed 5 main actors who will be featured in this movie, in which, unlike the adventures of Buck Wild, they are going to be bringing back the original cast, in which it is stated right over here, in my source on Variety, by the way, in a video announcing the sequel, Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, Queen Latifah, Dennis Leary, and Simon Pegg, who have all led the voice cast of the family franchise, announced that they are coming back for a new adventure. The film is currently in production. So that's pretty much the main thing that we do know about Ice Age 6. Specifically with those cast members and their respective characters are going to be coming back. Now, recently, however, not long after the big reveal, we have also gotten information in terms of its release date, where originally they were planning at the end of 2026 to go and release a new Star Wars movie. Considering that, by the way, just want to say right now, this does not include the Mandalorian and Grogu, which that is still set, I believe, in May of 2026. That's still going to be happening. But in terms of this Star Wars film in particular, they decided to go and take out that release date and instead give it to Ice Age 6, where now the 6th Ice Age movie is confirmed to come out on December 18th, 2026. And by the way, in terms of that Star Wars movie, we don't know what it is specifically. Some have speculated that maybe it is the continuation of Rey's story from the sequels trilogy. But again, we don't know if it's actually true. So in terms of that second Star Wars movie, we don't know what's going to be going on with that. All we know is that now its release date is going to be replaced with Ice Age. So yeah. Now we know who's going to be in the movie and when it's going to be coming out, and the fact that it's going to be a 6th Ice Age movie. So yeah, another Ice Age movie. We're going to go to the adventures of Sid and Manny and Diego again. Why? Why is it that we got to bring this back? I feel like out of all the big name animated franchises out there, Ice Age is the one that you would think it is done. Like 100% over. Like no way that they could ever come back. Considering that not only did it ran its course, not only did it have like a full definitive conclusion, but also the studio that is known to have created the franchise is gone. We don't have Blue Sky Studios anymore. When you say Blue Sky nowadays, you don't think of the animation studio. You think of the superior Twitter app. You think of the social media. That's pretty much it. Like, why suddenly decide to bring back Ice Age again? It honestly makes no sense. And not to mention the fact that it's going to be coming out in 2026, which we're already getting old computer animated franchises coming back in that year. Apparently, that's going to be the major theme of 2026. Because on top of Ice Age, we're also going to be getting Shrek 5 and Toy Story 5, both of which are going to be released very close to one another. And the crazy thing is that with Shrek 5, with Shrek 5, I'll say now, okay, I get it. It's been a long time since we've had the last Shrek movie, and the interest of bringing back Shrek really came back after the big critical and commercial success of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I mean, if that movie turned out to be absolutely beautiful, then the chance of that being brought into a 5th Shrek movie, that can have a lot of potential. I get it. Okay. Even Toy Story 5, then I understand why they would want to bring that back. I mean, with Toy Story 5, you think about Toy Story 4, and yeah, sure, you could argue that it is unnecessary, but it is still a very well-made movie that I would argue is about as good as the previous 3 films. So if Pixar can find a way to go and bring back Toy Story after a long time, then you might as well go and do it again. If you could make it as good as Toy Story 4, honestly, I am so down for it. Not to mention that you also have Andrew Stanton, who's going to be directing it, and that guy has been with the franchise since the very beginning. So there is a possibility that it could still turn out to be fantastic. But with Ice Age, on the other hand, I cannot think of one good reason why we should go and bring this back. Because, oh my goodness, I remember the days when Ice Age would keep coming into theaters again and again and again, and with each sequel that they would go and bring out, it would just get worse and worse. I mean, yeah, it did get a bit better with Dawn of the Dinosaurs, which was a pretty fun movie, but then you would get Continental Drift, which wasn't that good, and then Collision Course just sealed the deal, and audiences just said, okay, you know what? We're done. We don't want any more Ice Age movies, period. Especially when that 5th movie was just god awful. Oh my goodness. I would even put it up there among one of the worst animated sequels ever created. And then there is the factor of Scrat Tales. Now, the reason why I bring up Scrat Tales, which is these short little animated, these little cartoons starring Scrat and a baby prehistoric squirrel, just doing their little shenanigans. and you can find them on Disney Plus, by the way. The reason why I bring that up is that I feel like that actually gave the franchise and Blue Sky Studios the proper conclusion that it needed. I would even say that Scrat Tales is the best thing from both Blue Sky and the Ice Age franchise since the first movie. Like, they're just a lot of fun. They stick to the usual Looney Tunes style cartoon shtick that actually works pretty well. And even that ending, like, it's perfect. Like, ultimately, all it is just Scrat finally eating his acorn. Like, he finally has it and he's done. I feel, it's like the proper, it feels like the perfect, proper conclusion after like all the shenanigans that Scrat would go throughout those features. And finally, he got his reward and it's done. It feels like the perfect way to go and cap off that studio and to cap off the franchise as a whole. It's honestly great. We don't need to see any more of like any of Scrat's shenanigans or any of the Ice Age shenanigans after we see like, okay, well, the thing that Scrat was running around for the most, like he finally got to go and do it. We don't need anything else after that. And then there is the factor of Blue Sky Studios where they shut down. The studio no longer exists anymore. The people who created the Ice Age franchise, they moved on to do other stuff. Like, maybe I could understand if you're going to go and like get some of those same people to bring them back together and like, get to work on that franchise. Okay, that could be something, but still though, it honestly feels weird that now you're going to continue that franchise without the studio that created Ice Age in the first place. And honestly, I just got to say that, I remember I talked with a friend of mine about this. We've discussed about, okay, well, Blue Sky is gone. Then who else is going to make who else is going to make it? Because at the most, they didn't say who's going to be producing the 6th Ice Age movie. At the most, they just say that it's going to be from Disney and 20th Century Animation, which is honestly pretty vague. It doesn't specify if it's going to be an animation studio that will be working on it. Like, at the most, I can imagine that maybe they're going to go and hire one of those, like, overseas animation studios. Like, me and my friend, we have been discussing maybe it's going to be from DNEG Animation, the same people who did Nimona. Maybe they're going to go and do the animation. Or maybe I was thinking, well, maybe they're going to bring in, like, Real Effects, or maybe they'll bring in Cinesite. Maybe they'll be doing it. Basically, like, they're going to go and outsource it to Canada or something like that in order to go and produce that animation. But regardless, it honestly feels weird, especially with the fact that Blue Sky Studios is the flagship animation studio, is Blue Sky's flagship animation studio, and now it's going to be handed to someone else. Like, that in itself, and maybe that's just a problem for like animation enthusiasts like myself, there's just something weird about that. So really, I just don't see the point. Like, with all of these factors, I don't see why the fridge are we going to bring this back. Like, why do we need to go and have another Ice Age adventure again? However, there is one thing that I do have to say, that maybe, just maybe, there could be that small chance that it could actually turn out to be good. Like, I know that with the unnecessary factor of this Ice Age movie, people don't want to go and watch it, Like, yeah, there's no argument that this is a very unnecessary thing for Disney to go and do, and I completely agree on that. But its chances of actually turning out to be worthwhile and enjoyable, they're actually, they're not zero. It's like, it's not impossible. It's not impossible that this could turn out to be good. And the one hope that I do have is when you look at the cast. Not specifically on who's going to be there, but who is not there. Because if you look at the list of the people that are coming back, of course, you got the main three with Ray Romano, John Leguizamo, and Dennis Leary. Okay, so Sid, Manny, and Diego are coming back. So that's a given. But then also, you got Queen Latifah as Ellie. She's coming back as well. And then finally, you also have Simon Pegg, who's going to be returning as Buck Wild. And so far, that's all we know. We don't have any of the other characters whom at the very least, they haven't been confirmed. You know, we don't have a confirmation about we don't have a confirmation about the other girlfriends. So we don't have that Jennifer Lopez tiger, or we don't have Sid's girlfriend from the 5th movie. There's no confirmation on those. We don't have a confirmation about Sid's grandma, played by Wanda Sykes. We don't know if she's going to be coming back. We don't have a confirmation on Manny's daughter, Peaches. We don't know if she's returning, let alone her fiance, Julian, who is basically the mammoth equivalent of Johnny from Hotel Transylvania. We don't know if he's coming back. And we don't have a confirmation if Crash and Eddie are going to be coming back. Now, I could be wrong, but if it's just these 5 main characters that are going to be coming back, and maybe the others are not returning, then maybe there could be a chance that it'll at least turn out to be better than some of the sequels. It will find a way to be a bit of an upgrade compared to Collision Course, or even Continental Drift, or even compared to the second film. There could be that possibility. It honestly reminds me of open season Scared Silly, where after they would make one bad sequel and another terrible sequel, suddenly they made Scared Silly, and they decided that whatever characters that they built for the sequels and stuff like that, they would just take it off and only stick to the main characters that have appeared in the first period. And from there, not only did Scared Silly actually turn out to be the best open season sequel, but it could debatably be said that it's the best open season movie, period. But then again, I understand if it's not a great argument because it is still open season, and Scared Silly is still not that great of a movie. It's not really that good. But still, though, the idea of taking away those unnecessary sequel characters, it actually does help things out to go and actually improve upon the feature. And if Ice Age can actually go and do that, then maybe it could actually improve upon the sequel. Now, if it were up to me, I would love it if they would just do a full clean slate and just have it be Sid, Manny, and Diego and the shenanigans of Scrat. I would love it if it were just that. But in this case, that's not, it ain't happening because they are also including Buck Wild and Ellie. But still, though, if they could get rid of many of those unnecessary sequel characters, then maybe we will have something worthwhile with this 6th movie. But again, that's only wishful thinking, and even if they do that, I don't know if it's really going to improve the movie significantly. I don't know. I'm just, as Deadpool says, I'm just making an educated wish. But overall, though, yeah, I'm not really thrilled about hearing the idea that they're making a 6th Ice Age movie. And while I do know that there might be a percentage that maybe it could turn out to be good, I just can't help but feel like this is just such an unnecessary move, much more so than Shrek 5 and Toy Story 5. So with that said now, I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the announcement of a 6th Ice Age movie? Are you guys interested to go and check this one out? Are you guys a bit more concerned about it? Let me know what you all think. All right, let's see now. Okay, positives first. On one hand, there is a slim chance that maybe this could be one of this could be the one to get the franchise back on its feet. On the other hand, dude, it's Ice Age 6, technically 7. The franchise fatigue hits harder than a cold brew when the 4th came out. So needless to say, I don't have high hopes. Maybe if they get one of the OG directors on board, like Chris Wedge or Carlos Saldana, well, if he's not too busy killing Zachary Levi's career, I'll be down for it. Otherwise, I'm not sold. Yeah, that's the one thing. Honestly, the one thing to help give some salvation to Ice Age 6 is if they do bring back one of the original characters. Disney needs to do like what they did with Toy Story 5 by bringing in Andrew Stanton as the director. But this time around, like, unless they don't, if they can have either Chris Wedge or Carlos Saldana be one of the directors, or have both direct the movie, then if they do that, then maybe it could have a chance to actually maybe be worthwhile. But other than that, though, yeah, like, honestly, why should they, like, it's at the point where we really need to go and question, why is there a 6th movie of anything? When a movie reaches number 6, that's when you have to raise, that's when you have to raise the red card and say, like, time out, this ain't working. Anyways, I have, and this is from someone who is literally called a Scrat fan. I have mixed feelings regarding this new Ice Age movie, and also, do we need this? I mean, Ice Age 5 is so bad when they ran out of ideas, so why do you make another one after Blue Sky shut down? The thing I like was bring back Scrat after the whole rights drama and the voice actors. I could give it a watch when it came out. Also, from the last story, there was a show that gone viral called Little Brown Bear from Canada, and this show is the next Caillou, but far worse than him and DW. Okay, honestly, I've never heard of Little Brown Bear, but all right. Anyways, look, I'll be straight to you on this. I'm not exactly big on having another sequel against the characters like Ice Age, and I agree 5 was enough after they did Buck Wild. Even I wanted to quit after that. There was a part of me that wonders how this will turn out without the studio. And after the comeback of other movies like Shrek, and the cast may be hopeful from Disney themselves to show how they would show these characters. Besides, they didn't say Crash and Eddie, so I believe this will be good. In fact, that's probably like a minimal thing for me personally to say that maybe this could be worthwhile. If they can exclude Crash and Eddie, like take them out of the movie, then maybe this could actually have something. Like, honestly, a lot of my problems with the Ice Age sequels have always been Crash and Eddie. They have been some of the worst cartoon characters to be featured in an animated movie. They've always been godforsaken annoying. And if they could take those out, then honestly, okay, maybe we could have something. We'll see. Give Sid back his title of being the comic relief. We don't need like a dozen of them. We just need one. Let's see what else we have here now. Well, we all know Ice Age is not leaving anytime soon, no matter how much we try to stop it. But, and this is a big but, if they bring back the baby, then I'll definitely see it. But as of now, I'll still give it a chance since I still love Sid, Diego, and Manny's relationship. Sadly, Blue Sky Studios is no longer with us, thanks a lot, Chapek. So yeah, 2026 is going to be a huge year for 2000s nostalgia animated films. Would they do an Encanto reference? Hopefully. Oh my god, that is true. Since like John Leguizamo is there, like I would love to see. I don't know if they could do like a direct reference, but I would love to see like Sid having a little moment where he would act like Bruno, like that. He would just be there, like what's wrong, guys? My real gift is acting. That would be like a nice little moment, or have him like interact with rats. Just going to like, why are all these rats like, why are these rats loving me? Like, what did I do? That would be cute. All right, I think I'll read one more comment and then we'll go on to our final break. Let's see here. I'm gonna be the unpopular one here. I know everyone in this chat hates the idea of Ice Age 6 existing, but I'm cautiously optimistic about how Disney will go. Yes, I know that Blue Sky isn't around anymore, but seeing how Disney released Fox IPs like Apes, Aliens, and Deadpool and Predator actually having a good response, I want to see how Disney will tackle a big screen Ice Age film, and nostalgia baited us with bringing us back the baby. The big question in my mind is, who's going to be animating the film? You know, that is one interesting argument that I will say that is kind of true. You gotta hand it to Disney that with the way they've been handling the Fox IP so far, rather it be like the Planet of the Apes films, like with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Predator, like what they recently did with Prey, Alien with their recent film, the new Alien movie, I think it's Alien Romulus, that's what it's called. And also, not to mention, with Deadpool especially, yeah, they've been doing a pretty solid job. So, yeah, okay, so it is Alien Romulus. So, yeah, like, if Disney can handle well with those 20th century franchises, maybe they can do a better job with Ice Age, or at least better than what they did with Buck Wild. So, there is that possibility. So, overall, I'm going to say, yeah, this is just absolutely unnecessary. But I do acknowledge that its chances of actually being good are not zero. All right, so we're going to go on to one more break. And when we do come back, we're going to have a little bit of a video game talk. And we will discuss about the most unexpected star in the survival horror genre. Stay tuned for that, because you'll be surprised of who it is, if you don't know already. And now, everyone, it is time that we shall go and cap off this episode with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we're going to go and have a little bit of a change of pace, and we're going to talk about video games, especially when there is one in particular that got massively popular on social media, talking about the new survival horror game that people are really obsessed with. And the funny thing is that with this one in particular, there is a familiar star with this one, but you wouldn't expect that it would be the same kind as you would find, like, rather it be Leon or Ethan Winters in Resident Evil, or any of the Five Nights at Freddy's gang like Freddy Fazbear or anything like that. You know, it's none of that. Because this horror star turns out to be none other than Piglet from Disney's Winnie the Pooh. Yes, I am not exaggerating. People are obsessing with how Piglet is a survival horror star in his own video game. And I just want to say right now, no, this is not something that is considered to be new. This is not like some indie horror game that some edgelord decided that they want Piglet from Disney's Winnie the Pooh to be the star and tried to capitalize on the same kind of success like with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It's not that at all. It's mainly because people have been rediscovering a video game from over 2 decades ago called Piglet's Big Game, which is actually a movie tie-in game based on the 2003 animated feature Piglet's Big Movie. And people have been rediscovering this mainly because of the flow of the game, because of how it is. Like, people have been, some people have been playing it, but then they've also been posting on social media and realized that for a Winnie the Pooh game, it's a lot darker than what it debatably should be. In fact, in my source on Forbes, they actually posted some social media posts that presented a few examples, like this one right over here. Like, just take a look at how the game plays. Hold on a sec. So as you can see, there is just this massive amount of unnatural eeriness that seems very out of place for something related to Winnie the Pooh. From the soundtrack to the fixed camera, like this is the big reason that when it comes to Piglet's Big Game, a lot of people have been making comparisons to Resident Evil and even Silent Hill. There's even allegations that's been going around that some are saying that apparently for the Silent Hill 2 remake, they actually sampled some of the music or some of the sounds from Piglet's Big Game. Now, whether if that's true, I don't know. It sounds like a little bit of a stretch, but the comparisons between Piglet's Big Game and to those actual horror games have been pretty uncanny. And from there, a lot of people have actually found out that with Piglet's Big Game, that's apparently the point of it. It's not necessarily to make like a legitimate horror game, but to make like a horror family game. In fact, the developer, the director of the game itself, Pascal Stradella, actually commented on that and has stated here, just reading from my source on Forbes, Piglet's Big Game studio director here, who worked at the studio that made the game Doki Denki, are real intentions for the game. The game is a horror comedy aimed at children. The goal is not to frighten them, but to make them feel uneasy, to give them just the right amount of chills so they don't feel entirely at ease. So they want to try to go into somewhere that is between spoopy and spooky, but they don't want to make something that's just like downright horrifying, you know? You're not suddenly going to have like the Grim Reaper making a massive jump scare towards Piglet and freak kids out. And from there, of course, Piglet became this massive sensation, especially on Twitter, where they would make these fan arts or they would have like these comparisons, like right over here where we have Winnie the Pooh, you know, like you got Winnie the Pooh in the cage and like just Piglet talking to him, which is very similar to I think this is Silent Hill or Resident Evil. It's one of the two. You could go and correct me on that just in case. But a lot of people have been really talking about Piglet's Big Game and even mentioning that another post has pointed out like something that is meant to go and emphasize the freakiness of Piglet's Big Game, mentioning my favorite detail of Piglet's Big Game is the more damage you take, the more scared Piglet is in the loading screens. But what is the point of even making it like all horror and stuff like that? Is the plot the same as like the movie and stuff like that? Well, again, to go back into my source, I'll just read you right over here. It states Piglet's Big Game was a tie-in to the Disney film Piglet's Big Adventure or Piglet's Big Movie and sees Piglet enter the dreams of his friends, Eeyore, Tigger, Pooh, and Owl. The latter being responsible for the creepy library footage. The dreams of Piglet's friends have been infested with heffalumps and woozles, which have been part of the Winnie the Pooh stories from the very beginning. While the Owl's library didn't define the tone of the entire game, it was much spookier than a children's title would be expected to be. Internet users enjoyed the contrast between Piglet's cutesy loading screens and the dark, foreboding library. So the big thing that made it popular is especially the owl level, which is where you actually saw this scene right over here, like with the entire creepiness of just like with how it seems like Piglet is entering this like what seems to be this haunted hallway or this whole haunted house, like just walking around, and especially with the mechanics feeling very similar to, again, something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. So yeah, like basically Piglet just became this unexpected viral sensation. Oh, and you know what? There's also another footage. Let's go and check this one out right over here. Or I think this was made as like a meme, or honestly, I don't know if this is actually from the game, but yeah. And from there, a lot of people would go and discuss about some other games that can have that kind of similar vibe. Even some people mentioning the PS1 Rugrats Search for Reptar game having something that is similar, like this horror-themed level where Tommy would go and walk around his house and only has a flashlight with a limited amount of batteries. So from there, that seems to be the big thing that many people have been talking about, and the big reason why Piglet suddenly just became so viral, and especially this game just right out of the blue that, you know, before was available for the PS2 and the GameCube, is now becoming this viral sensation because of its horror theming, or at least one level in particular that is just, you know, that feels very out of place with how horror oriented that it is. But I could just say right now that I do understand the direction that it decided to do. The reason why they decided to go and try something out with Piglet's Big Adventure and have it be horror oriented, because you got to keep in mind that it was the early 2000s. And back then, family horror was actually kind of popular in video games. And a major reason is actually because of the original Luigi's Mansion. Because back then, it came out around the same time, or at the same time as the release date of the Nintendo GameCube. And that actually became massively popular. So from there, of course, there is going to be influence where other people want to try out their own Luigi's Mansion. And even in this article, it actually stated that Luigi's Mansion was actually considered to be a major inspiration. In fact, I'll just go and click on the link, which he even mentioned, this is again from the director of the game, Pascal Stradella, even stated over here, it's the main inspiration, even stating, it's the main inspiration, actually. We wrote about it in the general game design document, in which he actually described Piglet is a kind of cartoon Resident Evil dealt in a comic way. Luigi's Mansion is the main reference for the style and, most of all, for the game's tone, which means comedy in a horror cartoon context. Now, of course, with a lot of the sources that we have seen, we have yet to actually notice any of the comedy aspects, since it is mainly emphasized on the horror element. But still, though, I do understand how it suddenly found that viral nature and how it got rediscovered, because in a way, this kind of horror is still massively popular. I mean, keep in mind, the whole thing to go and emphasize is that you have this like cute child-friendly image suddenly finding themselves in a horror-like environment. And nowadays, that is like one of the most popular genres in pop culture recently, especially with video games, that Five Nights at Freddy's is a key player in making that so popular, or pretty much has innovated that image, you know, that whole trend of how it is nowadays. The one that really spun off with other indie horror games that have that same kind of tone and theming, like with Bendy and the Ink Machine and Poppy's Playtime, or even there's another one, I think it's called like Amanda's Adventures. You know, it's like a horror themed Dora the Explorer that, you know, has this little girl and like a sheep that's like trapped in this evil world and stuff like that. Yeah, you guys can correct me on that if you know specifically what I'm talking about. But yeah, like a lot of that has become extremely popular, and many people, millions in fact, have this massive fixation, which nowadays, as you have seen, has seeped onto Amanda. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Amanda the Adventurer. That's another one. And some people are even bringing in, I see some other examples like Indigo Park. So from there, of course, there's a massive fixation, and there's a massive market for that. So from there, with Piglet's Adventures, it kind of like, especially with the owl level, it does fit in that category. But not only that, but there's also this fixation on how not only does it fit the bill on that type of genre, but also the fact that it's a game that already existed for over 20 years, and it's a game that is officially from Disney. Like, it's an official Disney game that you would never notice that, oh, it's like, oh, it's a fun little Winnie the Pooh game with Piglet. You wouldn't think that it's the kind of thing that would actually be creepy or even scary or anything like that. No, I don't think Epic Mickey actually counts. I'll just say that right now. Like maybe with the I get it with like the Lonesome Manor level, but no, I don't think that does, I don't think it would legitimately count. But anyways, going back into Piglet, the thing with Piglet's Big Game is that it feels like a creepypasta coming to life. That's what many people feel like with this game in particular, is the fact that this unexpected official Disney game from the early 2000s, like you would go and pick it up, and then suddenly it would get creepy real quick. Like it has this unexpected dark tone that you would never expect from Winnie the Pooh. And I think it's like the combination of that trend and the factor that it feels like this creepypasta coming to life. That's what brought a lot of interest and a lot of fixation onto why people are just so fascinated with this game. And I'll even say right now that with this fascination, that there are going to be people out there who want to go and capitalize it. And oh boy, are they capitalizing on it hard. Because if you go on a website like eBay, for example, then you will see the prices have been insane. Like they can range from $100 or even hundreds of dollars. And I know like what I'm listing, what I'm showing here, like it's all in Canadian dollars, but still the prices are absolutely crazy for just Piglet's Big Game, for this Winnie the Pooh video game for either the PS2 or the PS2 or the GameCube. And you'll see some of the prices here, they are far more terrifying than the game itself. Like so far, the average with the shipping, like they can range from like $100 to like $150 and stuff. And then you have $1,350 plus 25 shipping. And this is all for a game that is brand new and that is fully sealed and that apparently it's over $1,000. And you keep going, you see these kinds of prices like 200. You also got 115. Here's another one, almost 1,400 with $70 shipping. And then you got like $400. You see where I'm going with this? Like people are going like, they're putting in crazy prices for Piglet's Big Game, all because of how popular it currently is, because of this crazy trend that it has right now. Now, do I personally think that it's worth it? Hell no. You would be insane to go and actually buy Piglet's Big Game for over $100, let alone like if you're going to buy it in the 4 freaking digits just because it got popular on social media. There is no godforsaken way. Honestly, like, just wait a little bit. Wait until like early 2025 and the prices are just going to go back down. That I just find to be, that's like pushing it a little bit too far. And it shows how capitalism can show an absolutely ugly side to a trend or a meme or anything like that. But still, though, it's kind of funny to see this rediscovery and how, like, even games that are like years old, like they could suddenly find some popularity again. And especially with something like Piglet's Big Game, even though like maybe not everything in the game itself is like that, it's still funny to see the popularity that it's getting, and especially how people are now seeing Piglet as this new horror star. Piglet, like people are just imagining Piglet now in his own like survival horror game and really taking dear to the next level. Just thought it would be fun to go and actually discuss about that, and to go and end this episode off on a lighter note as well. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you think about this whole trend of Piglet's Big Game? And especially, if you have played Piglet's Big Game, I would love to know what you think. All right, let's see what we got here. This is definitely interesting. I could definitely see why people would want to take Piglet and make it seem like Piglet is in a horror environment, and it's definitely fascinating. And it's honestly nice to see a Winnie the Pooh project to be in a horror project that isn't a slasher movie or related to the public domain. Yeah, that's kind of ironic. Like, if you want like a Winnie the Pooh, like if you want legitimate Winnie the Pooh themed horror, yeah, don't look into Blood and Honey. Disney themselves have already done it, and debatably have already done it better with Piglet's Big Game. Anyways, it's interesting for Piglet's Big Game to be inspired to some degree by much more mature horror games like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and The Last of Us, which explains the atmosphere in the actual gameplay whose clips were just shown. The fact that this game suddenly became popular might convince Disney to make it available through digital retailers like PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo's online store and Steam. At least there are no jump scares unlike Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yeah. Anyways, gotta say it, wow, this is quite interesting what they have done with Piglet and this 2000s obscure tie-in game. Now I'm getting nostalgic for 2000s tie-in video games I used to play, like Hit and Run. Speaking of Disney, I went to Tokyo Disney Sea, and it's one of the best theme parks I've ever been in. Also, their version of Frozen and Fantasy Springs is one of the best Disney attractions of all time. You deserve it, Japan. Yeah, I know. Oh, I completely understand. Like what they did in Tokyo Disney Sea and what they presented with Fantasy Springs, it's godforsaken beautiful. To this day, I still listen to the Fantasy Springs theme song. It's honestly one of those things that can be described as legitimately magical. But anyways, what other comments do we have here? Not a lot. I'm honestly surprised. I guess I'll read one more and then we can cap this off from here. Step aside, Blood and Honey. Piglet is the new horror star in town. I'm very surprised that a little game made a tie-in with Piglet's big movie suddenly becoming so popular last week. I did see a few clips of the game myself, and admittedly, they gave me the chills. And don't get me started on the eBay listings. Oh boy, 1K for a Pooh game? No thanks. Exactly. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I will say, I know this was a big one, and this was quite a heavy one, but I'm glad that we all went through this together, and hopefully we all still had a good time. Now, hopefully in the next episode, things can be more lighter and we can have more fun with it without going into some, more bigger and more serious subjects. But in the meantime, I just want to go and say right now, if you want to go and follow me on more crazy adventures on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then all you have to do is go and subscribe to the AniMat Live Twitch channel or the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. At the same time, if you are listening to me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, don't forget to go and follow me there as well, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon, or on Apple. And with that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.